Have you ever made a mistake that you really regretted? Or maybe you've learned a lesson the hard way? Solomon, the son of King David and the king of Israel, was an incredibly wise and knowledgeable man, gifted with wisdom from God. But he also made some bad choices. His many romantic relationships seduced him away from his love for God's wisdom and into pagan worship and idolatry. But Solomon made sure to pass on both his best advice and his worst regrets in hopes that generations after him might not make the same mistakes. The book of Proverbs contains philosophical poetry traditionally attributed to him. Filled with punchy, short sayings that promote an idealistic outlook, Proverbs is one of the most complete expressions of the Bible's philosophy of life. But there's also a shadow of regret. The first lines are the words of a father who wants his children to avoid evil and sin. These are the words of a man who has seen the consequences of rejecting wisdom in his own life and who wants to prevent others from being seduced. Now, Solomon's failures didn't happen because he wasn't smart. He was very wise. But his proverbs are really meant to point to the ancient source of all his wisdom, God. Throughout Proverbs, wisdom and foolishness are personified as two different women, or as two different relationships, a good one and a terrible one. Solomon specifically pictures wisdom as a feminine character, a woman preaching out in the streets. She is, apparently, one of God's feminine attributes. The virtuous woman, or Lady Wisdom, is the wisdom of God. She was involved in God's creation of the world and is always seeking to guide people. This is significant for a man like Solomon, who, despite being known as the wisest man who ever lived, spent his life also pursuing shallow, empty sexual relationships instead of healthy ones. He may have understood his own tendency to turn away from Lady Wisdom and from God himself. Gaining wisdom from the experiences of those who came before us is important. The story of the kings of Israel is the story of generation after generation struggling and often failing to do the right thing, to live in the wisdom of God. It may be difficult at times to accept the wisdom of previous generations, but if we take the time to get to know our parents, grandparents, teachers, and other elders, we may come to learn that they have gained great wisdom through their pains and regrets. It can be hard, but it's worth finding good mentors who can offer advice and guidance when you face difficult choices. We all make mistakes we can learn from, but we don't have to keep repeating them. We can tap into God's ancient wisdom, which is always ready to show us the right path.